what advice would you give people who share your passion for writing? When it comes to bringing their stories to life, how I usually ask these type of questions, whether it's filmmakers or writers, is how'd you get your start? And advising people to either do the same, or because the industry has evolved, what do you think their first steps should be to get into your position now?
So I've been asked this before, and I kind of sidestepped the answer a little bit, but there's a method to my madness, and I advocate for this specifically, and that is to treat screenwriting specifically. If that's what we're talking about screenwriting. I'm going to be dialed in really specifically on writing a script for a film.
Mhm.
You have to treat it as it is a specific craft, and you have to give it the respect to learn how to do that craft. And it
Whoa!
Surprise!
what?
I
Oh my
almost
god!
ruined.
I was just thinking about what nice things am I going to have to say about these three.
Mind your P's and Q's,
Almost.
mister.
Dig deep, bro.
I honestly
Mwah,
almost ruined the
mwah,
surprise.
mwah.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I didn't know we were just gonna pop in there. I was like getting a little misty watching that video play, you guys.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
made
wow.
a movie.
like you, I know two of you have seen this already, but yeah,
Really?
you know I love this movie. So, and that's how we roll here. We always have a little surprise for our behind the mask family. So welcome everybody, Nathan, Ben, Angela. Welcome back to the channel. Now, before we get into our new line of questions that we have out there, I have a funny story to share with all of you. So, I've introduced the movie to
He
all
hasn't
of
told
my
it yet, Nathan. He hasn't told it yet, Nathan.
But
Nathan's a great audience.
I've introduced this to all of my kids, and I had some space in between we introduced them to my daughters when they were younger, and we come up on certain scenes in the movie. It's like, oh my god, close your eyes, look away, you can't see what's going on in this one scene. Because I completely forgot about it. But yeah, so now if we watch it with them, we have to make sure that they don't see certain scenes and stuff like that, even though they're coming up on 16 and 17. So, but yeah, so
Yeah,
everybody in my house.
what's the proper age for that scene?
I think 16 and 17 is an uncomfortable age for a parent.
Yeah,
I prefer 18.
I saw so many movies underage, it's not even funny, man.
but with your parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the watching it with them. That's
watching
that's
the boob
the
scene
that's
with the parents
awkward.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
That's like close your eyes, and then all of a sudden you go back by yourself, like, what'd I miss? Right?
Yep.
Right.
All right, so welcome everybody. So we're gonna start asking some behind the mask questions, and one of the ones that maybe people are interested in is, so behind the mask, how did Leslie Vernon come to life? What was the inspiration behind the character? And even after it was on paper, Nathan, what did you kind of bring to life in that character a little bit further? So David, you go first. What was the inspiration behind the character?
It's your dime, David.
Oh, all right. I mean, there was no model for the character. It was supposed to be this sort of lurking, like Kane Hodder, probably. He was just supposed to be the big stuntman, burly slasher killer guy. Letting us behind the scenes. I mean, there was the expectation in the genre that your automaton killer is stronger than everybody else in the room, right? So, but there wasn't a specific model or anything like that, other than just the archetype of a slasher killer. I knew that I wanted him to be charming and sort of engaging with Taylor, in this absurd way. But Nathan and Angela and I were just talking about this the other night. Like it was entirely a blank sort of slate. That's not the word. It was sort of this sort of clay golem that Nathan absorbed into himself, and in the audition room and in the shooting of it, Nathan took the prototype that I had put down and he made it his own.
Excellent.
For sure.
Yeah, that's
Nathan,
really
what
cool.
did you add to that character?
Not really much. I mean, it was all in the script. It was one of the. I feel like I can count on one hand the number of screenplays that I've read in the entirety of my exposure to scripts that are just perfect. They're perfect. They're clean. All the math works out, right?
Hold on. I gotta PayPal him $100 every time he does that.
Let me turn off my notifications. Hold on.
I'm cutting him off there. I'm not allowing this. He says this every time. I say I did what I did in the script, and Nathan and he brought it to life. And Ben and Angela know exactly that I'm right.
Look,
and then Nathan says, "Oh, it was all there. The script was perfect."
I'll give you a good example, actually.
The conversation that you were having prior to us jumping on and saying how much work it is and how much you have to put in and blah 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 blah. Well, that was apparent in the script, right?
I didn't write Nathan's charm. I didn't write the dynamic and the chemistry between Nathan and Angela. I didn't write the witty banter between Ben and Nathan. I didn't write that. He's being very kind, but you put it down in the script, and when the camera turns on, the human beings are doing this.
Mhm.
There's intangibles that Nathan brought. Had anyone else other than Nathan played Leslie Vernon, we would not be sitting here right now having this conversation, and that's the truth.
Because it would have
I'll give you a
blown
good
up and it
example of
would have
that,
been on its
actually.
10th sequel by now.
That's true. No, there was this one scene toward the end, when they're sitting up in the loft and he's like, "I'm so happy," but he's like crying, and I remember, or sad, and I remember everyone, there was like such a buzz around that. There was like, the word said he's happy, but he's acting sad. Like, this guy can do anything. It's like a great example of like he kind of went opposite of what the average actor would do there, and it's very impactful, and it makes total sense that he would be crying. And
but I think that what you were saying was, I felt like the script kind of indicated it wanted to go different directions. When Angela and I started working together in the audition process, it felt like we were able to take what was on page, a very adversarial kind of relationship, and turn it into something that, as we were talking about just the other night, we ended up having a love story on our hands by the end of the making of the movie, and it wasn't something that was necessarily embedded in the script, but it was something about the process that was kind of encouraging. I think probably what made my audition more successful than many of the other people that were coming in for it was, and I was listening to some of those auditions on the other side of the wall, and what actors were bringing in there was, "I'm evil." And I just felt like that's so stupid. Those kinds of characters have never resonated with me, because I see that you're acting so hard to try to make me believe what you don't yourself believe. So it felt like, look, I'm not going to make any declarations about evil or whatever. I don't apologize for what I do. What I do is what I love. Why would I ever apologize for it, right? So I'm going to let you in behind the scenes on something that, if you've got a good head on your shoulders, you're going to know for yourself that this is gold, and this is beautiful truths that I'm sharing with you that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation. If you're not a fool, you'll see the value of it.
Yeah, that is a great way of looking at the evolution of that character. You know what I mean? Which is phenomenal. But my next question is, how did everyone become involved with the film? What is that backstory? What is that origin story, if you will?
Ben, you were on it earlier than anybody, right?
Yeah, that's right. Britton and I, I went to college with Scott Glosserman, the director, and I was on as far as we did a bunch of different table reads, and a bunch of kind of workshopping before it even got greenlit or whatnot. So yeah, I've read early versions of it and got involved in that.
And isn't there a video on one of the like DVD extras or something of the readings or workshop or something?
Maybe that'd be good. But so yeah, I had a friend in the. I had a friend. I got away with it. But I still had to audition and all that stuff. And by the way, Britton sends his love and regrets he couldn't make it tonight. But he and I became fast friends, and that whole sort of banter and friendship played on screen. And I think all of you guys are like best friends for life because of that amazing experience.
Well, I auditioned, as one does, and like Nathan described, when I read the script, I wanted it. There are those things that you're like, I want this, and I think my first audition, right, Stoobs, was at in a boardroom type thing, and you guys were all sitting on one side of a desk or a big long table.
Yeah, I think
and,
Hart was running the camera on the auditions. I think.
Yeah.
Hart was running the camera. Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah. Out. I was nervous, but we did the opening, monologues, the kind of the the beginning of the documentary, and I remember later on that first time we all got together to film the movie, and we had a rehearsal, and all the guys were sort of mansplaining to me how to be sort of journalistic and how what that sounds like, and I was like, all right guys, all right, I hear you, thank you for your your input. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it was just funny because they were all sort of like, it's kind of like it's kind of like there's this part of it, and then there's kind of this part of it.
How many times was Diane Sawyer thrown at you?
Diane Sawyer was thrown at me quite a few times, and I mean, to great effect. Obviously, that's a fairly strong example to emulate, I guess. But I echo what all these guys have said. It was a sort of a brilliant coming together of all these different people at this time, and immediately. I've said this before, but it sort of keeps popping into my head that I had just gotten a new cell phone, right when we started filming the movie, and quickly it was populated by all of them and my mom. Those were my contacts. It was mom and then these guys.
And your mom was in all of our cell phones too.
Right.
And Diane Sawyer throws herself at me.
So, I mean, I think that, this is reminding me of something I think is critical to why the movies had this longevity. And there are two things. One, it's I said earlier, there's the metaphor of a bunch of young creative people trying to make their way in what is utterly an industry rife with failure and rejection. And none of us knew any better. We were all just like, well, we're doing this thing. This is crazy. Here we go. And yet somehow 20 years later, some of my best friends are people from that film. And that doesn't happen on every movie. It doesn't. I mean, Ben and Nathan and Angela can speak to that better than I can. But the fact that we kind of all put our whole selves into this movie, and then combine that with the metaphor of the struggle, I think that's why it resonates with so many fans, because it's just such a universal. And then it gets back to my lecturing about Campbell, which is that we were all collectively on our own independent journeys that beautifully overlapped into these concentric circles. And here we are 20 years later, still, sort of basking in each other's glow in a way. So I think it's, if nothing else, it's been a beautiful experience for all of us, and I think that's why it resonates with so many people.
That's awesome.
And also too, to get back to what you guys were asking about the script and about the character of Leslie and sort of sort of like where that all lived. I think part of what makes it like so hard to discern for any of us really is that it is a beautiful script. It is a perfect script in a lot of our eyes. That being said, there was a real kind of joyful sense of curiosity that we all had, as you say, Dave, being young creatives. It was like, I remember shooting that scene that toward the end where Taylor realizes the bigger picture and her role in it, and like Stoobs and I, like, he was just like so enamored of the moment of that, and gave me such a beautiful warm hug as an artist and as an actor, like just acknowledging something that he was seeing in real time. Like, you write some words on a page and then you kind of see the moment where they really kind of drop down into this deeply feeling moment that lives in a real person's body and heart. And like, so I think, and we all, and Scotty had that in spades. I mean, he was like a kid in a candy store on that film, the whole thing. And all of the department heads, all of the, our cinematographer, like our sound designer, we were all very curious and open and excited and humble, and we were dreamers. And so it just kind of, it that's why it's hard. Like, we had a screenplay writer who was amazed at what we did and told us so, and that doesn't happen all the time either. That kind of acknowledgement of the creative process, for us. And it was
I think that also it comes through that David and Scott as well were just like huge horror fans, and I think that it's so rich with these little Easter eggs, and that's why I think it resonates with horror fans for over time. Is it's like, it's insider sort of, not exactly winking or tongue in cheek, but it's like, that's the thing that's the red the no-dos or whatever. Like, there's a lot of little things in there that's like, okay, it's you can tell that it came from a place of love and a place of sort of, fandom. And I think that's part of why it resonates with fans.
Yeah, and before we hear Nate's answer on this, but there's a real fine line between paying homage to the horror genre and ripping it off. And you guys paid homage to it perfectly. Like, where there's other movies that just take full scenes and like, oh, we're going to recycle it and make it part of ours. And it's like, it doesn't work. But the way you guys did it, it was perfect. So Nathan, how did you get involved with the project?
Auditioned. Yeah.
Well, was there a posting? Like, what? How did you come across all this?
I was with the agency. My agent sent me a script, and I was like, hell yeah! And got an audition, and I think it was a callback that I met Angela at. So yeah, I guess I went from. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did audition.
You were probably in the boardroom.
Yeah,
were you in the boardroom?
And then I came to a callback where I was paired up with you, and there were two other gals, and then I think it was after that I got a call from Scott that was basically like, here's the problem. We really like you and your take on it, but it's really different, and we're having a problem reconciling how to make that movie. But I was I guess this is good news. Like, I'm in the running at least, but
I'll call you in 6 weeks.
I might lose out on this whole thing because it's just too different or something.
I mean, here's some behind the scenes that I don't know that I've ever shared with Nathan or Angela before. There was a moment after those where it was very, very clearly whittled down to Nathan and one other guy. And Angela, I think it was I think Scotty knew that he liked you, but and you kind of matched up okay with both guys. So the path was clearer for Angela. But the debating that Scotty went through between Nathan and this other guy, who was more in line with the hulking, you know, Kane Hodder type of an actor, it was this, like, I remember having this sort of like this person in front of me who seemed to be having like this raging debate and almost existential crisis with himself, and sort of bouncing ideas off me and like, right, but then this, and I would just sort of like just kind of nod, and then he would sort of answer or disagree with himself regardless of what I had said. And so it was just sort of going back and forth. And I just remember at one point kind of, I mean, I can absolutely say with 100% confidence and pride in my heart that I advocated for Nathan over the other guy. I liked the idea that it was just, it was so different. But I just remember watching how much Scott was wrestling with it. And I think he knew which way he wanted to go. And it wasn't really a choice between Nathan or the other guy. It was him trying to separate himself from the idea, the expectation of the easier answer. And so it wasn't really necessarily that he thought the other guy was going to be better than Nathan. He was just like, is it safe for us to go this far off the path? Because that guy would be fine, but this guy. And it was just so great to see him finally get out of the kiddie pool of what was expected and to go with Nathan.
You know what you need to do, Stevie? You need to just take the Behind the Mask script and just make Behind the Mask with the correct cast this time. Because you all went really off the rails to make this movie that I think is it ends up being a really interesting artifact, and it's obviously stood the test of time. But it deviated so far, I think, from what that movie, you know, the movie that should have been.
No, request denied.
You needed to have a big hulking, you know, you needed to have that just monster of a guy, you know. You needed
You
to.
could have hit the gym, man. You could have gone and bulked up. I mean, you had months. You could have.
Yeah.
You could have been fucking cardio, Nathan.
Leonidas on that.
Do you even lift, bro?
But
you weren't short. Leg day, bro.
With the highest lifts I got, I'm 5'10". I can't pull off the kind of, you know.
Oh man! See, Danny, and David. This is what happens when you put the four of us together. You guys got to rate this right now. Rate it.
I learned so much. You know, I had only done a lot of theater before that. That was the first feature film I did, and I learned so much from everybody, but definitely from Nathan and Angela as an actors. And you know, Nathan's one of my favorite actors. I've seen every play he's done in the last 20 years. You know what I mean? So, and Angela, you know, is so professional and so talented. So, you know, anything that Nathan just said, like, disregard. These two are the best. And, you know, they really deserved it, and they nailed it.
Well, I love that though. I want to add this. I love the fact that you didn't go with the big hulking person. That's something that John Carpenter said for Halloween. He said that he didn't want a big hulking person because the shadow is just the shadow. It's not big movements. It's nothing. That's why Michael Myers ended up being so creepy. It's just almost majestic-like, right? Like he's just fluid in that movement because he is human, but he is just evil personified, right? And so that's why he's the shape. That's why faceless, no big reaction, stuff like that. So to get away from the trope of having this big hulking individual, I think worked better for this film also as well. You know, I don't think people would relate more to like this big hulking guy rather than what, you know, Nate portrayed. That is incredible, you know?
It's almost scarier too. Like he walks among us. He's like, you wouldn't stand out in a crowd necessarily.
Yeah, and to Ben, to your point, when Nathan does flip that switch that we all saw him flip, like it's almost a little more terrifying. It's like, what the hell? Where'd this guy come from?
Yeah, it's not like we're running into Tyler Mane-sized people every single day out in the street. So the normal people are scarier than the giants.
Yeah, and then John Carpenter did say about Rob Zombie's version. He's like, that dude was way too big. He's like, that's the only big problem I have with it. He's like, he's just too big. I don't know why.
That's funny.
That's cool. Yeah.
All right, so this was originally meant to be a trilogy. So I don't know if you can really kind of give us an insight of what the full vision for the trilogy was, since we've seen the one and we have the comic book.
The vision was that, you know, a killer has to emerge and sort of make a name for himself, and then the killer has to return, because if you don't return, you're a one-hit wonder, and you're, you know, what Eugene's character says, you know, you're one-hit wonder and make a mess of a sorority house somewhere, and then you're gone. So your killer's got to return, right? And that would be, you know, and we also wanted to fold in some of the sequel slash prequel, so there was a little tongue-in-cheek, which is why the comic graphic novel is called Before the Mask: The Return of Leslie Vernon, because it's both. But then the third part of the trilogy would always have been, all right, you've made your name for yourself and you return, so you prove that you're an entity. But if you come back a third time, then that's where legacy happens. That's where you become a curse on Glen Echo. And you establish yourself as, you know, somebody that could return at any moment, any time, including 20 years later. That was the goal.
All right.
It didn't happen that way. It has not happened that way. But there's not to say there's not more to be explored, and the conventions and the, you know, what we've seen with particularly the Halloween franchise. I think what Danny McBride and help me out, the other producer writer,
David Gordon Green.
David Gordon Green, thank you. So I think what they did, that's, I don't know if this is gonna, you know, endear me or vilify me to your followers, but I happen to love that trilogy. I think, including Halloween Ends, Halloween Kills, I loved it, and it worked 100% for me. So I know there's haters out there, but I think that where was I going with that? I think that there's still room to explore. What does it mean to be a killer who appeared once and then 20 years later, you know, and I'm getting off into a tangent here, I know that, but what's happened with Beyond the Mask is that the fans have kept this franchise alive. The fans have kept this film alive. And it's not a franchise, it's one movie. But the fans have kept it alive in a way that it feels like it's its own franchise. It feels like there's a Leslie Vernon universe out there. And that's despite the fact that we never got another one off the ground. So I think that the real life parallel is, if it worked and people love it that much, well, then there's got to be a way to tell that story in the cinematic world of Leslie Vernon's impact on the town of Glen Echo and what's happened 20 years since then.
Yeah.
You know, I never walked out of an interview, but since you said you love the Halloween trilogy, I'm out. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I understand it wasn't for everybody, but it worked for me.
But I love what you guys hit on this, and so I want to ask everyone here. We are seeing now the revival of all horror films, either a remake or a sequel, right, or remastered for today's time. Would this be something that you guys are considering, since, as you said, the fans love it, it has a popularity, it's still going, they would love to see it? Would you guys consider this?
Let me check my schedule. Yes, I'm available. I'm available.
I mean, if they're available, I don't see why not. I mean, I say we try it.
Woo!
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, the story, the way it was laid out then, fits perfectly the way the horror industry and the slasher industry is today. So it's almost like you can pick it up and you can drop it 15, 20 years from now, and it'll still work. And it'll work better than all of the requels that we have that are coming out and that have come out. So, that would be exciting to see.
Yeah,
it's always about...
Sorry, go ahead.
It's always about the thing that we keep coming back to, and the conversations that have been had over the years are about what is the extension of the metaphor? What is the extension of the, if we were young creatives trying to make our way in the world and we were full of piss and vinegar and thought our ship had come in, well, how does that translate to 20 years later? What has Leslie Vernon been doing? What's Taylor Gentry been doing? And how do we make that relevant in the same way that it was relevant to young creatives back then? How do we make that relevant to people who are, you know, in the later parts of their career creatively? So I think that's always been the bellwether for me. And I'm happy to say that there's a lot there to explore, and I've never stopped working on it. But to have access to Nathan and to Angela and to Ben and to Scott and Britton, and to be able to sort of keep bouncing ideas off of them has kept that drumbeat alive. That's what I'll say.
Oh, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's incredible. Especially like you said, what has he been doing? Has he been healing all this time? Has he been on killing sprees this whole time? Right? Like the audience has all these questions, and especially if you come out with this sequel, you know, that I think it would be a phenomenal thing, especially for. We always see movies that do direct sequels that don't pan out, right? Because it's too soon, right? It's just way too soon for the return of this character, or you know, just the return of the franchise. But now when you have all this time, you have so many creative ideas that could work out in that favor, right? Because it can go down any road, and maybe some of the fans in their fan theories were right, and maybe some of them were wrong, right? So this is exciting to hear that, you know, you guys would reconsider, you know, continuing this.
Yeah, my one theory was that Doug and Jamie were always in cahoots with Leslie, and they set up the whole ordeal years beforehand, and that's how they brought Angela in.
Oh, Doug the mastermind. Who knew?
Oh wow!
I like it. To see or to hear him, he doesn't read mastermind.
To go from 0 pay space to 100% pay
We can do
space
that.
all the time it's quite a journey.
It's what the crowd wants.
That's right.
We need more
That's what they
Zontal.
want.
And so to your point too, with story.
Got it. Still got those horizontal stripes somewhere.
And
Probably.
Oh, you do? You still
Yeah,
have your
sorry.
tiny bits on.
Over time.
And David, to your point about storytelling, and especially because the horror tropes, would you want Leslie to come back as human, kind of like a Michael Myers, that technically he's still human, or would you want him as an entity like some of these slasher films? Just like a general idea, if you were playing with something.
It would absolutely have to be. I think when I look at what people loved about the first film, and it was kind of comes back to where we were a minute ago, the dynamic between Nathan and Angela, and the so you have charming Leslie, who is deconstructing the slasher genre and is explaining the things that we see in such a way that you're like, oh my god, that of course that's why the cars don't start, and so for him the run walk, all that stuff. And yet there was this undeniable chemistry that Nathan had mentioned before that, you know, I didn't really realize we had a love story on our hands until, you know, what happened on screen between Nathan and Angela. So I think that, you know, I would not ever think that it would be right to bring Leslie back as a Michael Myers and not have Leslie, the charming guy, have the screen time and the interaction with Taylor. There's just no way. That's what people loved about it. And I think when you're talking about coming back 20 years later and doing essentially what is a reboot, right? That's what everybody's doing. They're like, let's do it again. Let's make another Beetlejuice. Let's but you have to try to catch lightning in a bottle again. And, you know, pass or fail, you know, you can't just leap forward to where Nathan is marching around and not talking to Angela. You can't. That's not the movie that people would want to see. So to your point, you would have to find a way to make Nathan and Angela, Leslie and Taylor, and you know, Todd and Doug, you know, God willing, would be there somehow in some capacity to capture the same dynamic. You know, say if you want to catch lightning in a bottle again, you got to use the same bottle. So
Nice.
That's great.
Great point.
Wow, it's almost like you're a writer. You just came up with it. That's amazing.
I got a list. I have a whole list. I have a list of catchphrases.
All right, we've reached a segment in our show where we like to have a little fun with everybody. So we do 6 rapid questions, and we'll go ahead and we'll start that in just 1 second. Favorite horror film? David, go ahead, kick us off.
Halloween, the original.
All right, Nathan.
Boy, Exorcist.
Good one.
I'll go Nightmare on Elm Street, first one, just because I was so pumped to hit Freddy Krueger in the head with a shovel that I gotta give props. And honestly, that movie scared the crap out of me as a little kid. Like I saw it way too young, and now it's kind of silly, but it was very terrifying at the time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Angela?
Does The Shining count, you guys?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's my number 2. That's my number 2.
Absolutely. All right. So for me, favorite horror villain.
Oh, man. Jeez, I mean, I don't want to just keep banging the Halloween drum, but I mean, Michael Myers is the shape, man. Like, how do you do better than that?
Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, good
That's
one.
a good one.
Yep.
I mean, Freddy Krueger, or maybe Jafar from Aladdin.
Or
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Angela. Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh my god. I can't believe you did that. She muted herself.
Millions of people watching right now. Oh, embarrassing.
Giant Sawyer's turning over in her tanning booth.
I am gonna pick Leslie Vernon.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So easy.
All right. So we're going to favorite final girl. It's fine to say Taylor Gentry. We've had other people that have said their own final girls in their films. So David, go ahead.
I mean, now you set the table. I mean, I
You don't have the same need.
all right. I mean, it's the same. It's the same logic, right? Like you can't have a Michael Myers without a Laurie Strode. But I do want to say you open the door. The scene that Angela referenced earlier, where Taylor has her revelation in the hayloft. That was really one of the most significant moments of my professional career, and that she wasn't exaggerating. The fact that I remember being so nervous and like trying to talk to her beforehand of like, oh my god, I need you to really understand how important this scene is. She was like, okay, David, I got it, relax. And then she just crushed it. And so I mean, from an archetype standpoint, Laurie Strode, but from real life perspective, Angela's version of Taylor is my favorite.
Nathan, how about you?
Taylor? I don't know what all the equivocation was.
Nice vocab drop. I would 100% go Taylor because she's my favorite young lady in the world.
Oh my god. Love you. I mean, I think it's Jamie Lee for me. I can't say myself. No.
That's too obvious.
All right, so this next question doesn't have to be horror, just in general. Last great film you watched?
Oh man, I'm so bad at this. The last great film. I mean, anytime somebody actually gets a movie made, it's like, I'm reluctant to say any movie's bad, but I feel like I think. Oh, this is awful. I don't even remember the name of it. There was a movie with Brad Pitt was like a hired killer on a train.
Bullet Train.
Bullet Train. I think I'm gonna go with Bullet Train. Bullet Train just hit me right. That was my last great one that I really loved.
Nice.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, good one.
I've seen it before. It was a rewatch.
I recently watched was it Killers of the Flower Moon? That was pretty darn good. That made me very uncomfortable and it hit me on many emotional levels.
Yeah.
I think Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hits on the heartstrings.
Oh my
Jamie
gosh.
Lee.
So,
Jamie Lee.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I promise you guys, I saw that film and immediately I was like, this is gonna win the Oscar. This is gonna I immediately called it.
Danny, did you know right away that it was her? Because I did not. I was like,
Spoiler
I
alert.
know this actor. It took me I was like a third of the way into the movie when I was like, oh my god, it's Jamie! Like that performance, man, I bow down to that lady and that performance.
Yeah, I loved everything about it. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I loved everything about it. I loved the fact that the original main character was supposed to be Jackie Chan, and it wasn't supposed to be Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
And then they did it with her, which, my God, beautiful casting. I love Michelle Yeoh from, I'm talking about even the old Kung Fu days of watching her in these movies, man. And so I thought it was perfect casting for all the way around, and just the beautiful storytelling and everything else. That's like another one that was kind of weird, but by the same studio, was Beef. Beef on Netflix was absolutely incredible. Had an incredible twist that I did not expect. Definitely on the level of Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that was a great pick. Sorry,
Yep.
I had to get off my soapbox now.
All right, so what's one great film other than Behind the Mask of Rise of Leslie Vernon that everybody should watch? So go ahead, Dave.
This is I did my homework on this one, and it came to me this morning. There is a 2011 documentary film called Finding Joe by Patrick Solomon, and it is about the influence of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey on filmmaking and life in general. And anybody who wants to be a creative person or a screenwriter in particular needs to watch Finding Joe.
It's a really good one. Love that. Love it.
I was not prepared for this question at all, and so I don't feel like I can point anybody in any direction that's revelatory. So yeah, I'll pass.
I don't know if this answers it, but for some reason the movie School of Rock jumps in my head. I just think that's like nearly a perfect movie. It's kind of for adults but also for kids, and it just like hits just this perfect tone, and I love that movie.
Awesome.
Jack Black is hilarious also.
Yeah.
He is.
Yep.
I mean, there are so many, but the one that popped into my head first was Amélie.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
just the cinematography and the world that filmmaker created, the colors, just it's so stunningly beautiful to watch. And then the performance of Audrey Tautou is just, it's a masterclass. I love her so much. The whole cast, but she is a goddess in that to me.
Oh, excellent.
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you for answering those questions, and it's time to wrap up. So I don't know if anybody is appearing at conventions or anything like that, so we'll start with David. Where can people find you at? Where can they follow you at? Are you going to appear at any conventions?
Yeah, where do you live?
Usually on my couch in North Hollywood, or my girlfriend's garden in Chatsworth, California. I do not have any appearances coming up. I didn't get invited to join Nathan and Angela. I'm really a little hurt about that, but
I'm thinking
more stuff on the
it's
West Coast.
impossible for you to be there. It's just, can you get yourself there? Is the question.
Where are you talking about, Nathan?
It's the
Segue
horror sideshow in Jersey, December 7th, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just not in convention. It's just in Jersey. You're not even in a convention.
But it's just a day, and I'm assuming it's kind of like a smaller group of vendors and stuff like that. But the lineup is fantastic, and I get to spend a day sitting next to Angela, which is one of my favorite things in the world to do.
Same.
I love people from New Jersey, for the record. I'm going to LA Comic-Con next weekend. I do this interview, like, cosplay show.
What?
Schadenfreude Industries on YouTube. Also, you can find me on
It's hilarious.
Instagram.
If you haven't checked out the YouTube videos, you got to.
Yeah,
His interviews are awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, we've been doing it for like 10 years, so I dress up in mediocre costumes and interview people in extremely thorough costumes. And then, Instagram, Ben Pace Comedy. Follow me.
Yeah.
And thanks for watching, y'all.
All right, and then Angela, how about you?
I'm going to be with Nathan at the horror sideshow on December 7th, somewhere in New Jersey. And I'm on Instagram, but I always forget what it is. I think it's AngeBG. I'm on Facebook because I'm old. um, and I would.
What's your MySpace address?
Oh my god! Do you know that on my college application there was a your space? I'm not kidding. And at my 25th reunion, we talked about how there was MySpace on the application, and it was like you could do whatever you wanted. You could draw a picture, you could write a poem, or you could it was MySpace.
Right. Mine's my pace.
Right.
Oh,
It's got fewer followers.
MySpace made us all learn code really, really fast.
Yes.
We just became codec writers and making all types of stuff that nobody knew we could do. I can't even do that now. I don't know how we figured it out. I was like, how did I used to code? I can't even read code now. Crazy.
All right, so thank you all for joining us. Great conversation today. Great talking about Behind the Mask.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us ambush your interview,
We love
David.
you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
so cool to see you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you for making this happen. This made my day. This is fantastic. Love you all.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right,
Steve
and maybe if we demand that David J. Stevie is at the New Jersey Horror Con, maybe we'll get him to be
Oh,
there.
let's get some. Yeah, let's get the whole thing going.
Just like a whole movement.
Part two.
Thanks, guys. This has been so great.
Yep. All right, don't forget to do all those fun things. Like, subscribe. We're almost to 5,000 subscribers, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. I love you all.